All right, click the links to the alternative video platforms or support channel, join the Discord gap. So they, they're still kvetching about Dave Chappelle. It's not going away. It's something they can't let go, because if they don't win on this issue, then what's the next comedian going to say? It's like they have to shut this down and close the door on all further thought in this direction. They're lying, and we know they're lying, but they also know they're lying also. So I don't know if this guy, he's got the same name as that spirit cooking Satanist lady. I don't know if they're cousins or what, but because it makes it funnier to assume that they are, I'm just going to go with that. So this guy did the article. The left flat out believes in censorship for your views, but not for theirs, of course. And no, he's not wearing stockings. Those are his legs. It's like these people really seem to believe that they are the masters and you're the slaves. So this is guy Abramovic, who did this interview with an old SNL cast member, and the cast member from the old school seemed to trigger him a little bit. Basically his thing was, either it's all okay or none of it's okay, and this Abramovic guy wasn't having any of that. And the only reason this is an issue is because Dave Chappelle has dark skin. That's it. You're literally seeing black privilege. If he was an Englishman, the show wouldn't be on the air. It certainly wouldn't be on Netflix. And I don't think any comedy club would allow it, because they wouldn't want to be blacklisted. Can we laugh at BLT or not? According to them, no, it's absolutely haram. That's the one thing in America that must be off limits. But their argument is pretty weak. They say that there is real-world trans victims of Malmansay acts, which is true, absolutely true. Now, here's the thing with BLT in general. In case you're not aware, they run in pretty rough circles. A lot of them are in the sex as a business game, and drugs and sales of drugs. It's everywhere in that community. You got a group that is already on the outskirt of society, and then you add in selling sex and drugs. It's going to attract a rougher crowd. You're going to get what you get. The BLT community says that Dave Chappelle's words are an incitement to violence, except they don't point to a specific quote where he allegedly incites violence, because it doesn't exist. And Dave Chappelle is not some edgy comedian. There is no edgy mainstream comedian. There's edgy comedy, but it's not mainstream. It can't be on the mainstream, because the platforms and the payment processors and everything is set up in such a way that it's just not allowed. Even if some platform, in some digital space, were to allow it, the payment processors would blacklist it. So 100% of every mainstream comedy thing or show or entertainment you're seeing, none of it's edgy. Everything that's edgy is going to be like on some, like a DLive or Odyssey or some live stream like this. You're going to see something on a live stream, but it's just not going to be out there to the bigger audience, because it's simply not allowed. So incitement to violence is actually pretty clear. Words advocating illegal acts. It's reasonable to punish incitement, a reasonable restriction on free speech. But it has to be a direct line from words to violence. I mean, you can think some thought experiments through. It's pretty simple. Dave makes fun of the best people on earth also. You, the people of the light, the Uggs and Starbucks and the Volvos and Volkswagens. They are the victims of violence. So should we censor his words because those two events are correlated but not necessarily causated? The value of free speech is so high that hurt feelings is just simply not enough to justify censorship. There is value in communication. Otherwise, you end up in a society where you're slaves to those who control the speech. Why would you want to allow other people to decide what ideas that you may entertain? What if people like this Abramovic guy, what if he's evil? I mean, he doesn't look evil with that little, I don't know, French bulldog or something. But what if he is? What if he wants to censor speech because they have interests adverse to yours and they want to hurt you? I don't trust Abramovic to decide my ideas for me. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. In general, censors are at the best benign pussies, and at the worst, authoritarian dictators who want to put you in gulags, like they've literally done in the past and still do in China. If you can't speak out against bad ideas, then those ideas will propagate. Is trans a positive or negative? We don't know unless we have the freedom to discuss it. Either it's all okay or none of it is. Dave isn't inciting violence. BLT runs in very dangerous waters. Prostitution is evil and exploitive. It's evil for everyone involved on an individual level and on a societal level. Anyone who plays on that field is going to be at a higher risk. Anything involving pharmaceuticals and cash and things you take a group of people who are already on the outskirts and then they're doing, illegal acts involving, pharmaceuticals, cash, and maybe Liberty devices and a bunch of other stuff. It's like, like if you look at the lifespan for different people in the different BLT communities, you look at like the average lifespan might be 75 years, and then you look at their lifespan and you're like, oh, it's cut in half. It really is a rough community. So a society punishes the bad actor doing the bad acts, not a comedian saying that a surgery to create a hole in the body is not literally a vagina. We have the right to lampoon ideas that we consider absurd. We don't have to agree with every new fad that comes along. Humor concerning this rise in BLTism is important because none of this feels organic, no pun intended. It feels like decades of propaganda has exploited people who are very susceptible to manipulation, if you know what I'm saying. Part of multiculturalism is laughing at the Karens, Shaniquas, and Schwartzes that come up with bad ideas, or otherwise, in other ways, they show their ass. Comedy right now is 90% blonde man bad. That is so tired. It needs an injection of raw energy. But these kvetching yentas won't let us, which means that we have to make fun of them also. Meme them till they cry, and then make fun of them because they're crying. And obviously there are underlying issues of BLT in society and how they're sexualizing kids. If you want to know what I'm talking about, you can watch the latest Twix Halloween commercial to see what is up with that. Dragging kids into the culture war, pun intended, is evil, and we need to trebuchet these people to Mars. So Abramovic says, and he was very preoccupied with the plumbing. Yeah, because, a lot of people look at this and go, you're doctors who have a duty of care imposed on you, and you're what looks to be mutilating perfectly healthy patients. That seems a bit weird to the normie out there to see a doctor engaging in cosmetic surgery that actually reduces function, actually causes harm. That seems odd. And it seems like something we should talk about. And so Abramovic goes, the genitalia, the this and that, does it really matter? Well, it might. And we don't know if it matters or not unless we have the freedom to discuss it. And people like Abramovic and the GLAAD organization and these other BLT organizations, they want to take away that freedom. They say, oh, well, it got so many negative reviews that we don't feel we have a need to platform it. Well, I mean, GLAAD doesn't have a platform unless they have some open comedy night, which open mic comedy night for GLAAD and the BLT groups. There is a trans comedian on Twitter who is giving examples of trans humor, and one of the jokes was something like they couldn't wait for the day till they can get a uterus so they could feel like what it felt like to abort a baby. That's the joke. That's a trans joke. That's a BLT joke. The left can't meme. That's their humor. Where the punchline is killing a kid. Like, there's dark humor that's funny, and then there's dark humor that just sits there, just black, infinite blackness. Like, a joke like that is a look into the comedian's soul, and comedians as a whole are pretty. There's a lot of alcoholism. There's a lot of pain in comedy. A lot of these people came up with comedy because if you read Sarah Silverman's book, I forget the name of it. I read hers and Chelsea Handler's. Interesting. Sarah Silverman had some issues growing up, which probably helped her as a comedian. But there's like a lot of darkness going on in there. And a joke like that, to get a uterus so you can abort a baby. I mean, you look up from that joke and you look into the person's eyes and you go, oh, they're not going to be around long. That's the kind of someone who's going to drink themselves to death or do something. That's not someone who is... There's like, there's a spectrum of life affirming, you know, having kids and proliferating and being fruitful and multiplying and that kind of thing. And then there's the other end of the spectrum, which is like mindless hedonism, drugs, non-procreative sex, this kind of thing. And so that kind of joke is like, well, the punchline is killing a baby. That's weird. And that, I mean, as a society, is that a direction we want to go into as a society? Oh, well, you're not allowed to talk about it because we're going to censor you. Yeah, but I kind of feel we need to talk about it. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys all next episode.